Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Branding Smite.
Ah! You branded me, kind of. This is a second level bonus action cast time paladin, hexblade, and battlesmith spell. Requires verbal components. Duration of a minute with concentration. It's an evocation spell. The next time you would hit a creature with a weapon attack before the spell ends, the weapon gleams with an astral radiance as you strike. The attack deals an extra 2d6 radiant damage to the target, which becomes visible if it is invisible, and the target sheds dim light in a 5-foot radius and cannot become invisible until the spell ends. When you cast a spell using a third level or higher slot, add a d6 for each slot above second. Don't do that. In fact, I would stop with the first line. I wouldn't read past that because this spell is dookie. Hot trash. Utter uncastable garbage. The worst. This might spell suck.
All right, now I know that's your feeling about the smite spells in general, but I like this one. Situationally, if you're fighting an invisible creature, then this is really handy.
Okay, I got some very important questions we're going to line up. Okay, question number 1. How often are you fighting invisible creatures?
I said situationally.
Okay, number 2.
Yes.
In those situations, how often do you know you're fighting against invisible creatures? Like, going into the fight, going into the long rest, that you're going to be fighting something invisible. Most of the point of invisibility is it gets you. You're like, I wasn't ready for it. Now it's invisible. Now I can't see it anymore. And you have to do a little invisibility game. So how much of the time are you preparing this, knowing you're going against invisible creatures?
I think I'd have this one, and I'd keep it prepared. All times.
Okay. How many spells do you think paladins get to prepare?
12.
Half their level plus their charisma modifier. So normally 5, 6-ish. This is a second level spell slot.
Yeah.
I'm entirely unconvinced. This spell's hot trash. I will take almost anything else over this. There's a whole bunch of problems. I hate seeing invisibility. We know that I hate seeing invisibility. This may be a little bit unjust. I don't like the mechanic. I don't like the gimmick. I think it's dumb. So this is kind of like a see invisibility, but it dispels it instead, which is fairly better as far as like conditionally goes. However, you have to hit the invisible creature to start with, which means you're attacking at disadvantage. You're spending a bonus action and praying that you connect. So if you don't connect that turn, you spend a second level spell slot for nothing, and the invisible creature is still invisible, and that's an issue because you're attacking at disadvantage already. So, that's not great. Additionally, you have to spend your concentration on this, which means if you have anything else you want to concentrate on, not anymore. It's gone. Get rid of it. Thirdly, sorry. Let's dive into it one point at a time. Let's do it.
Back up.
Okay.
You attack and you miss.
Yep.
The spell's gone?
No, it just sticks on your sword.
Right. Okay, so what was the issue there?
There's a very real potential. A character that is using Branding Smite against an invisible creature is making 2 attack rolls at it with a disadvantage, assuming it knows where it is. If it misses both those attack rolls, the creature can move, and then you can't see it, and you've wasted a spell slot for nothing.
Well, it's still there.
You're concentrating on something that you then have to refine the creature and retry and hit it, and the invisibility problem still persists. It's still invisible for a whole extra round.
All right, that would still be the case if you hadn't casted this spell.
Yeah, but what if instead you didn't waste a second level spell slot, and then you just, whenever you did hit it, you hit it for 3d8 radiant damage instead?
Then it would still be invisible.
Yeah, but you wouldn't risk wasting any resources in the single niche encounter that you're fighting an invisible creature.
All right, but you still got the same issue. If that 3d whatever radiant damage doesn't kill it, then you still got the same problems where it's floating around. What?
You've never risked wasting a spell slot. That is a big difference.
I understand.
Okay.
That's a difference. But you've still got this invisible creature you have to deal with.
Yeah.
Whereas if you did use this, you wouldn't have the same problem. You still have a creature, but then the whole party can see it, and yay.
I would much, much, much prefer to have my concentration be doing anything else than having to try to risk randomly hitting an invisible creature that the party is fighting. Let's look at something like a green hag, right? So a green hag is a low tier enemy that's going to be turning invisible relatively frequently. All right, green hags in total, hit point wise, are rocking a glorious 82 hit points. Okay, if we look at a divine smite on a great sword, let's pull up the good old fashioned dice calculator, shall we? If you hit with a 2d6 great sword and the second level divine smite for 3d8 damage, we are looking at a glorious 25 damage, including modifier, to it with the divine smite. Now, assuming anyone else is contributing to the fight, you could take that damage and kill it faster, or you could drop the damage by 10 and not get anywhere closer to killing it for it not being invisible anymore. Additionally,
you're very much closer to killing it because everyone can see it.
Invisibility often takes concentration. So if someone's using the invisibility spell, the DC will go up the higher the damage you deal to it for it making the save of not being invisible anyway. So in the case of specifically green hags, they have a thing called invisible passage. So that is, she concentrates on that as if she's concentrating on a spell. If you do more damage, it still can knock the invisibility off in the instance you hit it at all. And every instance of damage does that. You don't need to waste preparing a slot that you don't necessarily know you need to waste, doing less damage to try and remove the invisibility condition. That also can just fall off by just hitting it.
Yeah. All right, that's true.
I don't think knocking invisibility off with a Branding Smite, even against invisible creatures, because it takes your bonus action, you have to preload it. All of that is going to risk, like, if let's say you're in the encounter against, again, a green hag, a very common invisible creature, right? If you go round 1, bonus action, attack, miss, your rest of the party is still going to attack it, right? The rest of the party is aware that if you clearly are aware of the space the green hag is in, they're going to take actions to kill it. Those actions can drop the invisibility off. And if they drop the invisibility off, it is no longer invisible for you to have to deal with. You now have this Branding Smite sitting there doing nothing. It's just a worse Divine Smite now. Because if it becomes uninvisible on not your turn, well, the Branding Smite, even if it does stick around, even if it does connect later, still is going to be just worse than a regular Divine Smite.
Okay. Couple things. The green hag's invisibility. You hit her, she breaks concentration, everybody gets an attack, but then she goes invisible again.
Takes her action to do so. So that's really, really, really bad for her to have to do.
Yeah. I will not argue that. That's really bad. However, she still has that option. With this, unless she breaks your concentration, that option's off the table.
Yeah, but what if she does break your concentration? That feels pretty crappy, right?
Meteors fall out of the sky and you get hit by a bus. That you could go on like this all day. But yeah, that would be bad.
No, you just brought up a great point that they can knock your concentration off of this, which means there's a higher chance of not doing anything at all, which I hate.
Yeah, well, in life, there's going to be risks, Sam.
So in this hypothetical, again, I like to consider, is removing a bad action from a creature worth anything? I often find the answer to that question is not really. Most of the time, creatures are going to take the best actions they can for their circumstance. Sometimes turning invisible at close to the end of a fight may still be her best action. Maybe she's just trying to flee, and instead of disengaging, she's going to turn invisible so you get an attack opportunity at a disadvantage on her. Maybe that's her prerogative. In that scenario, Branding Smite technically removed that option, but when her other option is disengage and run, or just dash, dashing gets her away faster. So in the circumstances where you would want her to no longer be invisible, because again, you will have hit her, she will be injured, and she will likely be losing a fight in that instance, she now has a bad option taken off the table. I don't find that to be that valuable. Now, granted, we're talking about specifically green hags in this hypothetical white room box, right? It's not particularly useful. This is in one of the subset of environments that you would prepare, again, on your list of next to no prepared spells, this one.
You haven't convinced me, Sam. I'm sorry. This,
It's uncastable trash. This spell is awful. You have Divine Smite right there. It's a feature. You can choose to do it when you crit. You can just be waiting and using it whenever willy-nilly. This costs you a 2nd level spell slot. It's not even a 1st level spell. You need to be a 5th level paladin to start using a 2d6 an extra bonus damage hit. Are you joking? That's garbage.
I'm not joking. I'm not in this for the 2d6 bonus damage. That's nice. I'm in this for revealing invisible creatures. And I think I think that's gonna sway one or two battles.
I don't agree. I don't think
Okay.
it's in the battles where it matters, where it could matter. I don't think it's going to be better than Divine Smiting most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, all the words you're saying make sense. Just this.
So if all the words I'm saying make sense, and it affects 1 in 100 encounters, and in those 1 in 100 encounters, not preparing it is as good as preparing it, how is the spell usable?
This I don't know. This is one of those gut things. This is it's like insurance. I feel good having it.
I don't. I feel like I'm wasting a spell that I could be preparing something else for, like anything else.
Yeah, I get that.
I can't concentrate on other things while I have this up. If I'm against an invisible creature and we're in the mid tiers and I've got a summoned ally or I've got some other effect like a divine favor or the big everyone around me gets bonus d4 to damage, right? I can't use this. It's not that I can't like I have to remove a more powerful, higher level concentration effect to have an opportunity to get a bad effect. Do you want to concentrate on anything else ever?
I'm not using this all the time.
Yeah, but in the situations where you are using it, do you not want to concentrate on something?
Maybe that's a choice I'll make when I come to it.
This is unusable trash. Let invisible. I stand by this. I definitely have some bias here in that I think a lot of the detect invisibility forms aren't that great. I like invisible monsters as a puzzle, not necessarily invisible monsters as a condition. I think that as a invisible man finding the killer monster in the house, that's a very fun event to have happen. It's fun to use traps and dust and footprints, and trying to use non-sight to interact with the creature can be exciting and interesting. I find in combats it tends to just be like a passive buff that gives advantage on all the other attack rolls and disadvantage on all the other attack rolls against it, and that's not as engaging, and there's a lot of confusion and a lot of sort of nuisances in figuring out if you can attack it, where its space is. You should know where its space is so you can still technically attack it. I find there's a lot of issues there that I'm not a huge fan of. And for that reason, these kinds of features will always bum me out a little bit.
All right. I don't think we're going to agree on this one.
Yeah, that's fine. And only one of us can be right, and that's okay.
And this is D&D, and I have the big bushy beard, so.
You know what? You got the age on me too. You got the 2D and AD&D, all that experience that I just don't have.
Well, none of that's relevant.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, you made logical points. I countered with gut feelings, and but this is if I'm playing a paladin and I have access to this, I'm gonna hold out hope, and maybe it'll never come to fruition, but one day this spell is gonna make the difference.
So, one thing I'll end on. Spells that you hold out hope for, spells that are the 1 in a million encounter spells, they tend to be at their best, I find, whenever they are additional free spells alongside for example, in Paladin Oaths. If you get this as an oath spell alongside a regularly usable oath spell, that's probably the best home this can have. Because it's always prepared.
Are there any oaths that have this?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to double check. But the Battlemaster and Hexblade get this. Oh, well, Hexblade doesn't count because you have to learn this, and you're definitely not learning this on Hexblade. So again, Battlesmith could conceivably get this as an expanded spell they always have prepared. I don't exactly remember how the Artificer's thing works. In any case, if you can get this as a tool that isn't from specifically having to prepare it, it is, I think, at its best. Because then you go, oh, crap, the invisible thing. I got this thing on my sheet. Look, it's good in this one situation in this campaign. Sweet. And then you use it. Maybe there's some success, and you probably just as good just smiting it into a crater. But yes, you can have that window of usability. As far as preparing it goes, I would guess there are 7 or 8 spells that you'd be excited to put on your character sheet. Are you ever taking the one, well, I like all of these, but this one I can only use maybe if it comes up. This other one I definitely know I can use this coming session, or I definitely expect to be able to use it at some time in the near future. And you can prepare, again, half your level plus charisma mod on Paladin. So, you don't get a ton. I don't think it's something that you will actually relatively regularly prepare. And I can say from DMing experience, I don't see Paladins preparing this.
Well, you haven't seen me playing a Paladin.
That's true. Maybe every other Paladin spell to use, just not worth it. I want Branding Smite.
Maybe. But I don't know. I think it's even narrower. There's going to be a few cases where you'll know beforehand that you're going against something that can turn invisible. And yeah, then I'm definitely preparing it. Even though I had this video conversation with you and know that it might not be useful.
There probably are a handful of encounters where it doesn't have concentration up, and turning invisible stalker visible is just useful. So sure. I will concede there could be encounters that exist where preventing something from being invisible is useful. I will give it that. It still gets a 1.
Still gets a 1. Oh.
That's less than once a campaign useful.
I was not imagining you were going to give it anything higher than a 1. So
okay.
I'm not that disappointed groan I just did was, don't even worry about that.
Okay.
I'd feel bad giving it. I'll give it a 2 and not feel amazing about that. I want to go 3, but no. I have learned things, Sam. I'm not a insanely stubborn man. But yeah, I don't think this is 1. I do feel good about 2. I was leaning toward 3, but no, 2 is solid. That's where I'll settle. All right.
Yep. I have plenty more to say, but this is a great place to stop.
Go ahead if you want to keep talking.
No, I was just gonna say, I've seen people play paladins with smites on their sheet, and the difference in performance between the smite spells and the smite feature, I cannot express how much of a world of difference there is between these two things. Divine Smite, the feature, bananas. Game warping. You can use it when you crit. You can use your bonus action for other things. You don't have to concentrate on it. You can just pull the spells out when you want to, as you need to, burn them as many times as you want. They're not limited to once per turn. You can just slam them dunk every time you'd like to use them. That makes the damage on them less of an issue because you're still trading a spell slot for a amount of damage. These smite spells have a bonus action concentration cost that guts their usability at the vast majority of circumstances. You can't ever hit something and go, oh, I'd like to Branding Smite this. You have to go into it saying, I want to Branding Smite this, and then try to hit it. And that is so far apart in power.
Okay, now, for most of the Smite spells, I'm right there with you. This one, I feel, is an exception in certain situations. But that invites us to go back in another circle.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't think this is going to be productive, but all right.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. And commenters, you can let us know what you think. Which side of this coin do you fall on? And that's it. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.